Hello everyone, this is Pico Entertainment and we are back again, and here now we have another video for you, and this will be the beginning of looking back on the Mission Impossible movie franchise, which is definitely one of the most successful within the spy and action genre, even more potent and prolific today as it was way back with the release of the first film. And that's where we'll start off, going all the way back to the release date of this film, May the 22nd, 1996, with movie superstar Tom Cruise in the lead role as Ethan Hunt, starring alongside the likes of Voight, Ving, Rhames, Reno, Vanessa, Redgrave, and the film itself was made by acclaimed director Brian De Palma. The movie is of course a big budget adaptation of the classic 1966 spy television series created by Bruce Geller, which ran from 7 seasons from September the 17th, 1966 to March the 30th, 1973, centering on a group of secret spy agents known as the IMF, or the Impossible Missions Force. And the movie takes that concept within its own story, as we see a group of IMF agents led by Jim Phelps on a secret mission within Prague to stop a rogue agent from stealing a detailed NOC list, which carries extensive intel on other secret agents working for the CIA. During their mission, the IMF agents suddenly find themselves under attack and are systematically killed one at a time, with only Ethan Hunt surviving the assault. When meeting with an IMF director, Eugene Kittredge, Hunt realises that their team was set up as part of another operation to discover a mole agent within the IMF. Realising that he's wrongly suspected to be the mole, Hunt escapes from the IMF and meets up with an arms dealer known as Max, who met up with the mole in order to obtain the NOC list. Now Hunt discusses and confirms with Max that the NOC list that she has is a fake, and he offers her the exchange of retrieving the real NOC list, in turn that she pay him $10 million plus give the identity of the mole within the IMF. Assigning a team together, Hunt goes all out to retrieve the list while also uncovering the identity of the mole and other secrets along the way. Now when looking back at Mission Impossible, it's overall a solid and slickly put together spy thriller. It shares a lot of the same tone of the spy thrillers way back from the 1960s and 70s, not only in its style and direction but perhaps also in its pacing, which can admittedly be quite slow. After intense and suspenseful opening 10 minutes, it feels less involving and struggles to stay compelling as it sets about its plot, which really isn't quite as interesting as what it should be. If you've grown up in a more modern era of spy thrillers and action films, you may indeed find phases of this film a bit boring. Whilst I wouldn't say it is boring, I can admit that it does lack a certain momentum. What also doesn't help is the lack of personality or characterization, as what is defined throughout the entire Mission Impossible franchise, Tom Cruise is very good at playing Tom Cruise. The boldness, the daring nature, the cockiness and confidence. Ethan Hunt has never been a distinctive character in the same way as James Bond or let's say John McClane. He really just flies through the movie without any depth or charisma. They try to up some personal ante by mentioning Hunt's family being under the threat of arrest or prosecution, but because we never see them or Hunt's connection, that element never really means anything. Now despite some quality actors in the cast, the supporting characters are also nothing special, and the lack of a real substantial antagonist again takes away any compelling thrust from the narrative. And in terms of the plot itself, you get the gist of it for the most part, but it does lose itself, especially in the final act where we get certain reveals and twists and turns that don't really quite make sense when you rethink them, and are not exactly executed very well in terms of raising the stakes. Now what saves this movie without any question are the action sequences, which are executed very well and are probably some of the most iconic of the franchise. Whether it's the sequence of Hunt escaping the clutches of the IMF, running out of there with an exploding fish tank in the background. We then have what may be the best scene of the movie, where we see Hunt's infiltration of a closed room within the CIA headquarters in order to steal the actual NOC list. Without the use of music or dialogue, it's a masterfully staged sequence as we see Hunt levitating down to the computer screen, being held above by Reno's Krieger before losing his grip, and we then see a tense moment of Hunt trying to keep his balance and make sure that he doesn't trigger any of the sensors within the room. And it's really a lesson for any action movie in how to achieve maximum tension with minimal use of edits or gimmicks, and it's such a great sequence overall. And of course we do mention the film's action climax, very much the sequence that sold the movie so well in terms of the box office, And this is when Ethan takes on the enemy on a fast running train, facing off against a helicopter. And to be honest, looking back on it now, it doesn't age quite as well due to the obvious back screen projection, which will look even more worse when comparing to today's action films. But it's still overall a very exciting sequence to definitely end the movie on. And audiences definitely felt the same way when we look at the movie's box office, where it was indeed a massive smash hit, grossing $457 million from an $18 million budget. And overall it was the third highest grossing movie of 1996, behind both Independence Day and Twister. Already a massive A-list superstar prior to this, Mission Impossible very much sowed the seeds for Tom Cruise to become much more of an action superstar, making large-scale blockbusters, which was accelerated even more so with the sequel Mission Impossible 2 in 2000. And to be honest, it was really that sequel that created the franchise as a long-running series. The first film tends to be forgotten a lot now. At the time of its release, it did receive some criticism for the story being too convoluted and lacking any real substantial and interesting characters. And I think when looking back on this film now, it's much more of a cold spy thriller rather than the kinetic, mainstream action blockbusters that the sequels very much came to be. And whilst it's probably the least rewatchable of the franchise, I'd still say it's a solid start for what would indeed go on to become one of the longest and most successful running film series within all of Hollywood. So those are my overall thoughts and feelings when looking back at the first Mission Impossible movie released in 1996. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Where do you think it compares in the overall run of the Mission Impossible films? Do you think it's right up there? Do you think it's one of the worst? Or do you think it's somewhere in the mid-range? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And as mentioned at the start of this video, I will continue this series of reviews. So the next video, of course, will be concentrating on the sequel directed by John Woo. So look out for that in the future. But if you have any other suggestions regarding any other films, movies or television shows, or any other issues within the pop culture and entertainment scene that you'd like to see me cover, then also let me know within the comments and I will see if I can provide further commentary for you on that subject matter within the future. Please also hit and like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves and I will see you very, very soon.